This interview is brought to you by Commvault. Hi, everyone. I'm Ross John Fortuny, Senior Staff Writer at GovCIO Media and Research. Government agencies are reinventing efficiency and readiness in an era that is shaped by artificial intelligence and cloud transformation. In connection to AWS reInvent 2025, we're looking at how government agencies can establish an AI-ready foundation, harness machine learning for predictive operations, and apply cloud-scale data protection to enhance resilience and to ensure compliance. With me to chat about all of this today are Richard Breakiron from Commvault and Bryana Tucci from AWS. Richard, Bryana, welcome.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Ross.
Ross. Jinx, it's great to be here.
Always great. Great to see you again, Brianna, too.
Likewise, Richard.
Bryana, I want to start with you about the ways that federal agencies can build this AI infrastructure. How do they do that? And how do organizations like Commvault and AWS help accelerate that journey?
Thanks, Ross. Well, it's really just like building a Lego set. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so Legos are all over my house. And we always start with that strong foundation. In this analogy, that strong foundation would be your robust cloud infrastructure to support those AI applications that are going to be running in your environment. And then on top of that strong foundation, your next layer of Lego blocks are going to be very mobile, nimble, flexible, and adaptable. So what I mean by that is we might start putting smaller pieces on top and then move them around and keep moving and adjusting until we get that perfect shape, that perfect set of AI tools, and that perfect solution that is really needed. And that's when you're at completion. And that's when the Lego set stays in the house for 3 weeks because nobody's allowed to touch it. Now, this analogy really carries over to how the current administration is thinking about the adoption and incorporation of commercial technology into public sector workloads. We hear people like Secretary Hegseth in his recent Arsenal of Freedom speech talk about pilots with commercial technology and trying out a lot of different commercial tech and solutions before ultimately adopting a final one at scale and in a production workload. And AWS Marketplace helps the government to achieve just that, because through AWS Marketplace, the government is able to pick and choose from a myriad, thousands literally, of commercial technologies, pilot them, test them out, try them out, and nimbly adopt whichever one they need to at scale and in production. And among them, of course, is Commvault and the capability to adopt and incorporate Commvault into the public sector's ultimate workload with AI innovation at the helm.
So, Brianna, I think you've really set the tone, and I love the Lego analogy. I am a huge Lego fan. My son, even though he's now 30, not 2 and 4, he and I have been building this Harry Potter Gringotts Bank mega, 4,000 pieces, and it's just the way you said. You begin with that foundation, you put those additional pieces that give it that little resiliency that's there. And I think that's where, it's funny when I look at the way Commvault has been introducing and where we are resonating with, as you said, the new administration, but we are also doing it with Doge. And the best example I have is we had a very large federal agency who had gone back in, this is just as the Doge was taking place in January, February of this year. And they took a proposal that was really going to be old school. We're going to build on the old foundation of sand, quite frankly. And Doge said, well, go back. No, we don't think that's the right way. Why aren't you using a SaaS? Why aren't you using a SaaS that has like FedRAMP High? And why aren't you doing this in the cloud? And hey, by the way, could you save some people? And could you save some other software? And sure enough, we went back and worked with that organization for 4 months, and they became the largest single buyer of the Commvault SaaS solution. And Doge came back with all these glowing, see, you did SaaS, it's been ramp high, you saved 5 people, and you got rid of 8 other software licenses. And in the long run, you are now totally resilient. And that's that complementary piece, Ross, that we have with AWS. People don't understand that you've got to help people that are used to the processes that they know. It's always hard sort of for change. Some change is easy. I can imagine when you went from stick shift to automatic and the world said, well, that was easy. I'll do that technology every day. Well, believe it or not, it's very similar when you move from on-prem and into the cloud. And that's why we love working with AWS, because recognize that we are taking a load off of the individual organization from a data management perspective. So as Bryana says, we're a little bit of that glue in that new AI presence. And AI, I think from a foundational piece, needs some automation to begin with. And again, I always use my frameworks, always people, process, technology. And I think that works for this discussion.
And there's other ways that AI and AI agents and AI chatbots can also help contribute to what you alluded to, which is that procurement stage. Because one of the biggest challenges that the government faces today is that they've got dozens and dozens, if not hundreds and thousands of OEMs and ISVs that are offering these new Gen AI capabilities and even storage and backup capabilities, but the government is not positioned to award single contracts to every single one of them. And the way that AWS Marketplace comes in is that we help the government to be able to leverage and procure from all AWS partners via the marketplace on the government's existing cloud contract vehicle. Thus, they are billed for the licenses of these third-party solutions on their AWS cloud bill, preventing massive bureaucracy and extra workflows and work that would otherwise be entailed in delivering these direct contract awards to each and every OEM. But as we work through this revolution, this procurement revolution, it really is a revolution. If we think of the White House's term, the revolutionary FAR overhaul, the RFO, I'm stealing their term, calling this a procurement revolution. We need to educate those acquisition officials and leverage AI to help them to do their jobs better. We don't want them to be afraid of AI, being concerned that AI is going to take their job away or remove them from their role. Instead, AI is going to help them to deliver faster for the mission, for the warfighter. AI is going to help them to augment their existing capabilities. And this can apply to acquisitions officials too, who may be wondering, can I use AWS Marketplace to procure Commvault? Type that into your AI chatbot, train it well, and boom, the answer is going to be yes. And introduce an AI agent that helps to initiate a workflow for the procurement of Commvault via AWS Marketplace so that our mission owners and warfighters in the public sector can access your solution and thousands of other AWS partner solutions that much faster, because that is exactly what the government is asking for today.
So I did want to pick on something, Richard, that you mentioned about data resilience, because agencies are migrating a lot of sensitive information, a lot of sensitive workloads, a lot of sensitive stuff to the cloud. So how do you ensure resilience and compliance, something you've both mentioned a lot, at scale, especially with all these cyber threats coming at you? Richard, I'll ask you first.
So that's a great question, Ross, because we are just on with a major DoD organization this morning, and they asked that specific question. They said, okay, walk us through the process. And the way we do that is we actually go in and we inventory everything on premise. Even if we've never touched the data before, we inventory, we tag it, and we classify it so that we understand from their perspective, not our perspective, but from their perspective, the priority and the importance and sensitivity of the data. Then, the minute we decide we're going to start moving it, first thing we do is encrypt it. We never move anything without a FIPS 140-3 encryption algorithm. And now we're actually looking at post-quantum cryptography standards as well. So then we put that encryption package on it. Then we deliver it to the cloud. And once we have it in the cloud and protected, we also say, so by the way, you want to manage the encryption keys, or do you want us to? Because again, the sensitivity of the data, if it's impact level 4, they have an option. If it's impact level 5, Commvault's going to say, this is your responsibility, because under your guidelines for control and security, you have to manage the keys for impact level 5 data. So that's how we do it. It's a building process. The Lego comparison is just, again, the same way. The way you ensure protection is you get an understanding, you really identify and classify that data. And you know what the biggest amazement is with the DoD customer we talked to this morning? Yeah, so you're going to help us identify all this. And we actually did a study for them, and this was the follow-up meeting after a week of review of their data. So over 20% of their data was actually unusable. It was corrupted. And they were spending a huge amount of money, and that represented, I hate to say, about 6 petabytes of data. Can you imagine the cost of that to keep on premise? And it's trash, it's garbage. And think how much money that we just saved them there by looking at that. And I know Bryana has similar stories.
Absolutely. We see our public sector customers asking the same question all the time. And we always try and point them toward a combination of our native AWS services like AWS Backup, combined with our AWS partner solutions like Commvault and like others. Richard mentioned already post-quantum cryptography and encryption. And we see our public sector customers leveraging solutions like that offered in some cases by 2.6 Technologies Trusted Keep, which is even available above the impact level 5 that Richard was talking about in our AWS secret and top secret regions. And we also see the need for customers to think about managing their data and their solutions if they get into a disconnected environment. Think about those devices that live out in the field. And in those cases, we partner with companies like EdgeRunner AI that can provide these same kinds of AI solutions on the device disconnected from the internet and in air-gapped environments. And AWS Marketplace, of course, offers the host. It unleashes all of these partner solutions by providing them to government customers on their existing cloud contract vehicles, not just in AWS GovCloud, but also in our air-gapped classified cloud environments like the AWS secret and top secret regions through the AWS Marketplace for the U.S. intelligence community, the ICMP.
And thank you for mentioning that, Bryana, because again, Commvault supporting both all the way up through the TSSCI as well through your ICMP. And one of the most important things I think when we really talk to federal agencies, especially enterprise global DoD, that edge, that tactical edge that is going to have to operate disconnected. And then when they reconnect, that data that they now have gathered from an intelligent perspective on the last battlefield encounter, they now need to be able to upload that, but they need to do that seamlessly with the data that's already there. And again, it is those elements that allow a brand new world for looking at data and doing the next battlefield preparation of how to handle that next encounter.
Well, to that end, I want to talk about the future because there's a lot of what's next, a lot of unknown. What emerging technologies and capabilities should government be investing in now to stay ahead? Bryana, I'll start with you.
I mentioned a couple of them already with the quantum-ready encryption solutions like 2.6 and edge computing with AWS Outposts. I'd also mention just focusing on building those AI ML capabilities using Amazon Bedrock and AWS partner foundation models that are available via Amazon Bedrock, like Anthropic's Claude. The key really here, Ross, is starting now and leveraging AWS's constantly evolving toolkit of both native solutions and partner solutions to stay ahead of the curve so that we can keep America first in this endeavor that we have.
That's a great question from a perspective of, okay, what do we do first? Because it's sort of like, you get often that question, what do we do first? And what we always say is, you've got to look at the data that you own to begin with, because AI, believe it or not, has to have data. It has to learn. And it not only has to learn from the data, but it has to learn from the subject matter experts, the people, and the processes that are already embedded in an organization that you're now going to leverage a combination of those native tools and the deep dive tools.
Well, that's a lot to chew on, and it's certainly something that I think that agencies will heed. Richard, Bryana, thanks so much for talking to me.
Thank you, Ross. Richard, great seeing you.
Thanks, Ross. Great seeing you again, Bryana, and thanks again.
Introducing Clumio for Apache Iceberg on AWS, the industry's first and only iceberg-aware, air-gapped cyber resilience solution. With this breakthrough from Commvault, you can power recovery for your most critical AI and analytics workloads at the speed and scale that your business demands. Go beyond native snapshots or tools that don't protect against ransomware, limit retention, or require costly metadata updates or catalog rebuilds after restores. Advance your cyber resilience strategy and enable fast recovery of the data that powers your AI and analytics. Choose Clumio by Commvault and innovate with confidence.